you already know something is off. Not in a dramatic, everything is falling apart way, just this low-grade static that's gotten louder over the last year or two. This quiet suspicion that you've been optimizing the wrong things, measuring yourself against the wrong ruler, running a race whose finish line keeps moving. You're on the couch. It's 11 p.m. You've opened the same tab 3 times. Maybe it's a productivity app you downloaded but never really used. Maybe it's someone else's LinkedIn profile, the kind that makes your jaw tighten in a way you don't fully want to examine. You close the tab. You open it again. There's a word for what you're doing. It's called checking. But what you're actually doing is comparing. And what comparing is actually doing is building a case against yourself, brick by quiet brick, until the verdict feels inevitable. The verdict. That's the right word for it. Because somewhere in your early 30s, the internal monologue shifted from, I'm figuring this out, to, I should have figured this out by now. And that shift, small as it sounds, changes everything. It changes how you read your own reflection. It changes how you sit through other people's success stories. It changes what optimizing even means to you, because you're no longer optimizing towards something you want. You're optimizing away from something you fear. There's a difference, a significant one. Here's where this comes from. You didn't invent the timeline you're measuring yourself against. It was handed to you, assembled from cultural scaffolding that predates your birth by decades. The idea that your 30s are a decade of consolidation, of arrival, of having sorted the major variables, career, partnership, financial trajectory, sense of self, is a narrative inherited from a mid-20th century economic reality that no longer exists. It was built for a world where a single income could buy a house, where careers were linear, where the social script had fewer forks in the road. You are not failing to keep pace with life. You are being held to a template designed for a different life, in a different century, under different conditions entirely. Think of it like being handed someone else's map for terrain that has fundamentally changed, and then being told the problem is your navigation. That map is the extended metaphor I want to carry with us, because it matters. A map is not a moral judgment. A map that doesn't match the terrain isn't telling you that you're lost because you're deficient. It's just telling you the map is wrong. And the longer you keep trusting the wrong map, the more you will misread your own position. What you've been calling failure, the stalled project, the relationship that didn't work, the career pivot that felt like retreat, those aren't verdicts. They're data. They are your actual terrain, telling you what the map couldn't. I want to sit with that for a moment, because this is where most people get the reframe wrong. They hear, it's just data, and it sounds like minimizing, like someone handing them a platitude wrapped in the language of science. That's not what this is. Data is serious. Data is what you build with. The failure you've been carrying as evidence of your inadequacy is, accurately understood, evidence of your experience. And experience is the only currency that compounds in a way that actually matters past 30. You stopped optimizing toward experience somewhere along the way. You started optimizing toward optics. That's the real switch that needs flipping. Let's widen the lens for a second, because this isn't just personal. The cultural pressure to perform optimization in your 30s, to visibly, externally, verifiably be making progress, is a product of a specific economic and social moment. Social media has collapsed the private development arc. The years of quiet iteration that used to happen off-camera now happen in full view. And full view demands legible progress. Legible progress looks like promotions, announcements, launches, milestones. It does not look like the 3 years you spent slowly getting clearer about what you actually value, or the relationship that taught you everything about your own patterns, or the project that failed but built a skill you can't put on a resume. The invisible work of becoming a more coherent person has no engagement metrics. And so, we stop counting it. We stop valuing what we can't post. If you clicked on this video, by the way, that act means something. You're not looking for a hack or a shortcut. You're looking for permission to think about this differently. And that's a different kind of search. Hold on to that. Something worth knowing. A longitudinal study from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies on human happiness ever conducted, found that the quality of relationships in your 30s predicted well-being at 80 more reliably than wealth, status, or professional achievement. More reliably. What that means is that the thing you've been treating as secondary, as the soft variable you'll get to once the hard variables are sorted, is actually the primary variable. You have been optimizing the footnote. The main text has been waiting. And it doesn't stop there. Research on what psychologists call the peak of crystallized intelligence, your capacity for judgment, pattern recognition, and wisdom application, shows it doesn't arrive until your 40s and 50s. You are, right now, in the early accumulation phase of your most important cognitive assets. The raw speed and fluid processing that your culture prizes in its 20s is already fading. What's growing in its place is harder to name, less dramatic to witness, and worth far more. You're building something. It just doesn't look like what you were told building was supposed to look like. I want to be careful here because I can feel the argument tipping toward reassurance, and reassurance alone doesn't serve you. There are things in your 30s that genuinely do require urgency and attention. Certain biological realities don't wait. Certain compounding mechanisms, financial, professional, relational, do reward earlier action. Telling you that the timeline is a construction is not the same as telling you that all timelines are arbitrary or that nothing is urgent. Some things are. The point is not to abandon urgency. The point is to redirect it. The urgency you've been spending on optimizing your appearance of progress, the curated LinkedIn update, the side hustle that's more about identity than income, that energy is finite, and you are currently burning it on the wrong fire. What to stop optimizing? The approval of people whose approval you don't actually want. The image of productivity, rather than the substance of it. The performance of certainty in a decade that is, structurally, supposed to be uncertain. The relentless self-improvement project that treats your current self as a problem to be solved, rather than a person to be understood. That last one in particular. The wellness industry, the productivity industry, the self-help complex in which this very video is technically embedded. All of it runs on the premise that you are currently inadequate and that the right system will fix you. That premise is worth interrogating. Hard. What to double down on? Depth. The friendship you've been too busy to maintain. The creative practice that has no monetization strategy. The slow, inconvenient, uncomfortable process of knowing yourself better. Not so you can optimize yourself, but so you can stop being surprised by yourself. The relationship work that can't be hacked or gamified. The career direction that points toward meaning rather than optics, even when the optics are worse. The long game in every arena where a long game is available to you. If you want to keep thinking about this kind of thing, the honest, uncomfortable version, not the motivational poster version, there's a community forming around exactly this. Just check the description. No pressure, no pitch. Here's the thing about the map. You've been carrying it for so long that putting it down feels like recklessness. If you stop measuring yourself against that timeline, what do you measure yourself against? The answer to that question is genuinely difficult, and I won't pretend otherwise. Building your own compass is slower, lonelier, and less legible to the people around you than following someone else's map. There'll be moments when you can't tell if you're moving forward, or sideways, or standing still. The people who built their own compass will tell you, looking back, that those moments were the whole point. That the disorientation was not a detour from the journey, it was the journey. You're not behind, you're not stuck. You are, if you look at it clearly, someone who has been working extremely hard to meet a standard that was never calibrated for your actual life. That's not evidence of weakness. That's evidence of how seriously you've been taking your own potential, even when it was aimed at the wrong target. Even when the effort was real and the direction was borrowed. The effort was always real. The click that brought you here tonight, the one you made when something in the title caught something in you, that wasn't distraction. That was discernment. You sensed there was a different conversation available, and you went looking for it. That's not a small thing. In a feed designed to confirm existing beliefs and reward reflexive engagement, going looking for a harder question is an act of quiet courage. It means the compass is already there. It just needs to be trusted. You are allowed to stop optimizing the things that were never yours to optimize. You are allowed to let the timeline go. You are allowed to take the version of your life that you actually have, with its swerves and its silences and its very specific kind of progress, and call it, with full seriousness and without apology, enough to build from. That's not settling. That's clarity. And clarity, in your 30s, is the only optimization that actually compounds. If this landed somewhere real for you, subscribing means you'll be here for the next one, and the conversations that follow from it tend to be worth staying for.